This episode will cover the events in the last month of 1976, that is the December of 1976, about my residence in Syracuse University campus, in other words, in the university housing. Well, several things happened. First and foremost of all, Swapan Ghosh and Ghanshyam Srivastava left the campus. In fact, Swapan completed his requirements for the award of PhD in the early part of December 1975. And then he started looking for jobs, not only after completion, even before that. He had made several trips to Canada to see the prospective employers and also in some places in the United States. However, he was not successful in landing in a job, and especially in Canada, there was a huge influx of Indians displaced from administration in the Uganda, state of Uganda, or nation called Uganda. Idi Amin had thrown away hordes of Indians, and Canada, on its turn, agreed to accept 30,000 Ugandans of Indian origin, whereas somewhere around 60,000 were accepted by United Kingdom. So one of the things Swapan was advised to do while searching for a job in Canada was to wear a graduation ring. You know, in the US, it is customary that you buy a graduation ring, irrespective of the college or the level of education you earned. There are graduation rings for those people who graduate from high school, then community colleges, then the universities with undergraduate degree or postgraduate degrees like MS or PhD. So I did not buy one because it was like $90. Well, Swapan needed it because Swapan had to stand out as a person of Indian origin, but different from those people who were displaced from Uganda. So Swapan had this ring on his ring finger, and the top end or the outer part of the ring will say Syracuse University. There will be some kind of a ornamental stone fixed on it, and then PhD year so and so. And the inner part of the ring, there will be the name of Swapan Ghosh as Dr. Swapan Kumar Ghosh, and then followed by the social security number. So, Swapan, was very miserable days he had because he had no income, and he was making a frugal living on the savings he had made as a teaching assistant and a research assistant and what have you. And then Swapan had, in response to an ad in science by the Shiraz University, Iran, he applied for an assistant professor's job in geology, and luckily for him, the Shiraz University accepted Swapan Ghosh. So Swapan got some advance money and for relocation from Syracuse to Shiraz. And we all wished him well, and Swapan took off from Syracuse by the first week of January to join the Shiraz University in Iran. Well, What about Ghanshyam then? Ghanshyam had been, like Chopin, seeing the prospective employers, but not in Canada very much, but in the United States. Well, prospective employers means like state surveys as well as the oil companies. And so Ghanshyam had this what is called a computer application specialization, and a city service oil company accepted Ghanshyam as a scientist, researcher in their company. And as soon as this happened, this firm order was received by, commitment was given to Ghanshyam. Ghanshyam came back to Syracuse and then defended his PhD in the month of February itself. And then Ghanshyam had to complete all the formalities for the issuance of what is called the PhD degree. And then Ghanshyam and family left Syracuse, Slocum Heights, etc. by the month of March down to Tulsa in Oklahoma. Then I was the only one left behind in that Indian group of students in the Heroi geology lab. Then, of course, I was slated to defend my PhD in the first week of October. And I was working for it. I completed by October first week, and then doing the things that are directly related to finalization of the thesis, etc., drafting and putting together everything, a manuscript that will be retyped by the secretary of the department. I had to pay some money as a per page $1, and then I had to. She will make what is called 4 more copies. One I will bring home, that is not a copy, the original, and other 3 more copies will go to the University Graduate School with after affixing the signature of Bryce Hans, the supervisor, and head of the department or chairman of the department, Dr. D.F. Merriam. So those things were done. So after my defense, I think in the month of November, Paul Willett, a fellow graduate student, a junior fellow, junior to a person who is junior to me, joined only later, and an ex-Marine, that is the important thing. He came in one day into my office in the morning and asked me, "Hey Vic, are you interested in some maps of India?" I said, "Why not? Anything of interest related to India will be of interest to me for various reasons." Then I said, "What about it?" He said, "Okay, in that case, after coffee, let us go to the library." Which I asked, "Which library?" "You come to the Ernest Stevenson Bird Library, or the so-called Bird Library. We'll go there and see the map library." So Paul had his car, and I and Paul, after our usual team, took over, drove over to, or took a trip to the Ernest Stevenson Bird Library, and both of us went up to the map librarian and expressed our interest in the so-called topographic sheets or maps of India or Europe, what have you. So then that lady said, my assistant will be, is already there in the Continental Can Company, which is actually a warehouse of what is called the Continental Can Company, and currently, or then, the warehouse of the University Library, where all the unwanted printed stuff are dumped, and then finally that will be going into the incinerator. So that is the way it is removed from the collection of the library. Then Paul and I drove down. Paul was driving, and to the what is called East Genesee Street, where the Continental Can Company, it is actually some kind of a factory warehouse. So we walked in and we located that person, one of the staffers of the Bird Stevenson Library. No, not Bird, Ernest Stevenson Bird Library, or so-called Bird Library. And said hello, and then identified ourselves, and told that we are interested, both of us are interested in the maps. Then she, escorted us, rather piloted us to a corner of the storage facility. And to our surprise, we saw their bundles of maps rolled and tied with some kind of a rope. Okay. Then she said, this is it, you take whatever you like. So we went around and, there was actually some label was there, slipped into that bundles. And I looked up for what is called Indian maps. So I saw two bundles of Indian maps. One bundle was of the topographic sheet, so 1 inch is equal to 1 mile scale. So I was thirsting for the maps, as well as totally excited, because it is topographic sheet in the first place, a secret document in our country those days and even today. And secondly, it is all for free. Well, I opened the bundle, and to my surprise, what I saw is within the so-called neat line, all the labeling, place names, feature names, etc., was in the English language. Whereas at the bottom, in the legend boxes, and so-called legend boxes, and outside of the boxes, the legend was actually written in Chinese, I think, Chinese. So that was also quite exciting. Then on top of everything, there was a rubber stamp which read US military. That is the first line or first bold statement. Below that, microfilmed. That's it, no date whatsoever. So what I cannot take the entire set of maps of India because it will be a huge portrait and a luggage and a fee in the post office, even if it is sent by what is called the surface mail. So I just chose maps relating to the coastal region of India. And then, of course, Delhi, parts of UP, Rajasthan, and some Pakistani maps, or maps of Pakistan. Pakistan in the sense, Pakistan, Pakistan, correct, not Bangladesh. And that themselves constituted something very close to 100 sheets. Then there was another attraction, because that was about the bathymetric charts. Bathymetric charts are very useful. Well, the Indian sea around India, the bathymetric chart that was available covered, say, within 6 or 7 numbers only. Because, most of the time the bathymetric charts are on a scale of 1:1,000,000 or 1:1.5 million, etc. However, all the gateways to the ports, harbors, and anchorages will have maps published by the Hydrographic Survey Wing of the Surveyor General or whatever, in a scale of 1:1,500 or 1:2,000. Very detailed map. Well, these maps are very useful because for the first time, in spite of being in a university very located closer to the shoreline, or in the back, not exactly in the back, in the backyard of the western shoreline of Kerala, in geology department at Garivattam, there was no bathymetric chart. Plus, I had an inclination to look at the details of the processes, shore processes initially that happens in the coastal Kerala. So that was also a very attractive thing. I, rolled up those maps, made 2 bundles, 2 rolled up bundles, and whereas my friend had some maps of Europe. And he claimed that those lines and arrows marked in with a blue pencil in those maps, Paul thought was done during the Second World War and in the War Office by the chief brasses of the army, or so-called war room. Probably, he said, there will be probably, big bosses also would have made some pencil or blue pencil corrections or whatever. So we both of us very gladly thanked the lady in charge of then working in that library, this Continental Can Company, and then drove back to Hero Geology Lab and ferried these bundles up to our offices. I said a big thanks to Paul. Then my next job was to roll it up, then cover it with what is called brown paper sheets, and then tie it with masking tape, then putting my correct address, etc. And filling it or covering it in the what is called the sack, canvas sack from the post office, U.S. post office, and then of course carted it down to the post office, almost roughly 1 furlong. So I had to use this trolley available in the geology department, and then gave it over across the window. Of course, luckily each bundle or together they did not weigh beyond 25 pounds, which is the limit set by the U.S. Post, and paid whatever fee that was levied for the as the fee for the what is called a surface mail. Well, everything from the United States those days to other countries in the world through the U.S. Post Office and surface mail goes by a container, in a container ship. So there is no question of any kind of damage or wetness or whatever happening until it reaches the other end of the reaches the destination end, not the other end of the destination. It reaches the destination. Beyond the destination, the main gateway, for example, in Kerala, it is Kochi those days. And from there, it may get wet or it might fall in water, whatever, but nothing untoward happened anyway. So that is something very exciting. Then what I had to do also was to go to my family friend, Mr. and Mrs. Melvin, so that I can arrange with that gentleman to sell my car once we leave Syracuse. And of course, I gave all the papers related to the sale of the car and also the bank details, so that this gentleman will put the money or deposit the money in the Marine Midland Bank in my account. And of course, I had Mr. Koshi to get Koshi, Steve Koshi is the Australian, a Malayali from Punalur, and he has agreed to send a DD to Shastamangalam Thiruvananthapuram address so that I will have the money back. So unfortunately, that part did not happen. That money is somewhere in the unclaimed money. We now rest with the State Bank of India. Okay, anyway, due to some clerical error which could not be corrected. Then one thing else I had to do was, by the end of the third week, that is a Friday morning, I drove down to Johnson City, and because I had to fetch Geeta from there, and because of my hard work in packing and sleepless nights with respect to packing, etc., I was very tired. And in fact, I know literally I slept in the car while driving at a speed of 55 miles per hour. Luckily, the roads are designed in a certain style. There is what is called a shoulder and a little difference in height between the road shoulder and the pavement, so that as soon as one wheel goes over the shoulder, there you get a big rattling on the steering. So I shouldn't say I got up. I became awake, alert, because then I thought, my God, what could have happened if the car veered further and went down the embankment, which is at least 100 feet above the valley floor. So, well, you will call Almighty God, no doubt about it. And then what I did, I looked up for the next exit, because with that, through the exit, I can get down to the town or village. From in that place, I can go to a restaurant, take some degree of rest, and then before I drive again. So I went down. I went on to a restaurant attached to a gas station. That man and attendant in the restaurant, one older fellow, he came in and asked, "What do you want?" I said, "I need a Coke." Then the gentleman said, "No, what you need is a cup of coffee. I know you felt asleep. You were drowsy while driving." And only such people come to my restaurant for some kind of a refreshing. So he said, also had it. What I needed was a cup of coffee and then a Coke or whatever I like. So I said, I agree with you. And then from there, after serving all this, he started asking where I was heading to. I said, I'm going to Johnson City. Then that man said, "Hey, dear friend, don't go back to the highway. You take this, the regular road connecting the town with Johnson City. So, only thing is you take another maybe 20 minutes extra if you were to take not the highway." Then I said, "Yes, I agree with you." And I drove slowly to Johnson City, to Geeta's apartment. And the next episode, I will narrate what happened, since then.